Well, ladies and gentlemen, well, happy Saturday morning. Hope everyone's doing well today. Well, pocket change market report time. This time for August 27, 2022. We're going to get started with this thing to kickstart your weekend in the event that you guys are going to be out there doing a little cherry picking. Hopefully this video will give you a little inspiration as to what is selling out there. Now, normally, every single video, I would talk a little bit about how you could find these coins and how you could either, really add something to your collection that you paid very little money for, if any, to obtain, or cherry picking coin shops and shows doing the same there. And the idea is you're paying a lot less money for an unattributed error or variety that someone might have missed. And the two outcomes are that you could add something really nice to your collection. That's always important. Number two is for resale. Now, normally, I use the word resale very loosely. And in light of a few folks' comments about how some of these coins aren't worth a spit, especially to coin dealers, we're going to change things up from this point forward. And all the coins that you see here undeniably have strong online internet secondary market sales because the coins featured here are quite niche and they only appeal to a select audience, as opposed to, say, Silver Eagles and regular US type coinage. Where you could go to a coin dealer and sell them and do okay. They'll buy it and they'll give you whatever the wholesale, prices or the melt value or whatever the case may be. But every single one of these coins on the list, I would say, for the most part, I would say 90% of the coins on this list have a place more on eBay and some of these other online sites where you can pull in a lot more interested buyers than going to a coin shop and have them tell you, well, it's not worth anything. That's a completely different story. And, the transparency with this whole thing is that, no, you can't sell a lot of these coins through the coin dealer or trying to do private party sales with folks who are just looking to buy collections and they just, trying to tell them that a penny's worth $50 or $100 and all they want to do is pay you face value because they don't see that, can be a little bit of a daunting kind of challenge. So we're going to go ahead and take a look and see what has sold here recently within the last day or two. All of these seller images are original to their own. I didn't do any special modifications other than cropping and putting them together. But I didn't change any of the lighting, didn't do any of that stuff. So you're going to get the best and worst of what's out there. And just goes to show you that the bar is set quite low for your listings, and they still sell. So let's go ahead and see the best of the best for this video. This is one of those examples of coins that I certainly wouldn't waltz into a coin shop and say, hey, I have this, can you give me what eBay is matching on it? No, they cannot, and they probably won't. 1996 P candy $50 is not a stimulating coin by any chance or any means, but if you're eagle eye enough to spot something interesting, it might be interesting to someone else. So this one right here, if you haven't seen it yet, has a little bit of a die crack that goes from the tip of the bust of Kennedy, what looks and appears to be pretty close to the rim. All right, it's a straight crack. It's quite interesting. You can even see the crack trail up the base of Kennedy's bust. This is something that a lot of people would overlook. I would generally overlook something like this and just toss it back and not have any qualms about it. But a certain seller did, take a flyer on this one, ended up doing okay, selling it for $5.99. Is it worth it? Well, someone did pay it, so it's definitely worth something. So, $6 for this coin, I would say is a pretty good start, in terms of being able to spot little, nuances and anomalies on these coins. Oh, another thing that I like to talk about are lots. Lots in general post kind of like a bulky kind of sale to them, you know. Bulk type lots indicate that you are willing to sell coins a lot cheaper per piece than you normally would accept if you just sold it, you know, one at a time. So we have a 3-coin lot here. We have a blank Type 2 planchet, Type 2 being that it's got the rolled edge on there. We have an off-center struck Lincoln cent with no readable date, but it's probably off-center by about 50-55%. And then we have a 63D Lincoln Memorial, which exhibits a straight clip. So we have 3 coins here. The lot in general is just okay. I'd say my least favorite coin is the off-center struck with the staining and all that stuff on there. This particular lot ended up selling for $19.99, which doesn't really pose a whole lot of opportunity to make a lot of money off of this. I mean, if this would have been bought up at, say, $10, you know, you could turn around and easily double your money here after fees and shipping. But a lot of the opportunity has been stripped out for resale, but this might be a great starter collection for someone that's looking to get into U.S. Mint errors. So back to back, we have a couple pieces of currency. Paper money has been hot recently. We have a 1935 $1 silver certificate. These things are all over the place. Coin dealers have these in mass. And generally, they'll overlook stuff like this. This is actually, if you could see it right down the middle, has what they call a gutter fold. And these are caused by simply a wrinkle in the sheet prior to the print process. So when that wrinkle is on the sheet and it's printed over, you can literally stretch out that wrinkle and have a unprinted gutter in there. And this is what I would consider to be one of the lower totem pole type of errors. Excuse me. Oh, it's the end of summer dry season. But anyways, yeah, this is again one of the lower end errors that you could encounter out there. This particular example sold for $37.95. The note is generally pretty well circulated. But you'll also see on the reverse that area where the gutter is printed over. So at some point in the process, the sheet was stretched out a little bit enough to print a full back on this one. And here's our other one, another semi-old one, 1974 $20 Fed Reserve note. A little bit miscut from what I'm seeing here. Maybe a little bit of misalignment in the first overall print. It does have a little bit of writing on there, so it's got 18 written in ballpoint pen, which is usually a downer, you know, with these type of notes, but it's not the end of the world. But when we look on the reverse, holy smokes, this is a really great example of a full front to back wet ink transfer. Or they call this an offset error as well. So the impression cylinder had some leftover ink. When the impression cylinder and the plates make contact without a sheet, it will leave some of the impression from the plates to the cylinder, and then the next sheet that gets fed in will be printed with the reverse ghost form of what was on the impression cylinder. Kind of like similar to a die clash for coins. So that's kind of the paper equivalent. But when you're looking at these and you come across one, you want to make sure that the secondary wet ink transfer is backwards. All right, so everything will read backwards. If it's correctly oriented, then there's definitely some mis-illed kind of attempt to replicate a pretty good error. This note right here is sold for $139.39. Now, this coin right here was promoted, I think, as being a clamshell error, and a clamshell lamination is a lot different than just a regular standard lamination, which this one is quite minor. You can see a little bit of the retained attached lamination right here. On an otherwise quality, early dated Buffalo nickel, this is a 1914P. Well, it remains to be seen of whether or not the actual lamination would detract from the overall value of the coin, which Some people say it would, especially on nicer pieces like this, but it's not a clamshell because it doesn't have the edge split that would be indicative of a clamshell lamination. This particular coin ended up selling for $45.50, which, with or without the lamination, it was sold for around that kind of money. It's a really nice, lustrous example, and I'd say this is more of just a really nice type coin than a major error. Now, this one's quite minor. Probably a coin that I wouldn't necessarily, walk into a coin shop if you're looking to make a few bucks. They just don't see a lot of value in things like this. 1947 Lincoln wheat cent with a curved clip there. You can see at the top of the front of the coin. Also exhibits some of the requisite Blakesley effect, which is a flattening of the opposite side of that clip. All right, that's generally something you want to look out for. This coin sold for $5.99. So, yeah, more than likely you won't be able to walk into a shop and request $5 or $6 for this because they won't do that. All right, and similar for repunch mint marks. Repunch mint marks are getting no love from dealers. And where this particular variety shines is online, eBay. A lot of people are selling repunch mint marks because they're collecting not only the cherry picker's guide type, which is what this one is, but they're also collecting all of the respective RPMs for a specific date and kind of doing a collection that way. So this is a 56 D over D. It's RPM number 1. It's also FS501 in the cherry picker's guide. Just want to let you know, this is sold by Fox Coins. They put their name on their listing images, which is cool. A little bit of extra self-promotion. Pictures are great. The close-up, even better. So you can see that secondary D is punched west of the primary. Again, a very well-known variety. And because these are quite common, they are worth a few dollars. More than a few dollars than, say, some of the other varieties that aren't worth a lot more. This one sold for $15.73, and I've had personally a lot of success selling the 56D over D FS 501 or whatever it is for around $15-$20 depending on grade. Our feature coin this week is a very nice Strikethrough. This is a 1973 D Lincoln Memorial cent, and you can see a pretty soft area on the front of the coin that encapsulates the entire head of Mr. Lincoln, in addition to some of the letters in the motto, "In God We Trust." So this was created by just a mixture of grease, hardened grease, and various other debris. It could be a piece of fabric in there or a cloth. Strikethroughs, I will tell you this. All right, these things can get particularly knotted up and nasty enough. People will pay hundreds of dollars for these. This particular one, no exception. Some of the more extreme examples of a Strikethrough, struck through cap die is always a good one, especially with some sort of brockage on there. Those are generally very valuable. Struck through things like wire, string, a spring I've seen on a few occasions. Those are probably some of the more expensive types of Strikethroughs. But even, small wood particles and chips and things like that, struck through detached laminations from another coin. The list goes on and on. And, again, depending on the rarity of certain Strikethrough elements and the foreign matter that exists either still on the coin or just overall shape, will determine the value. Like this one right here, for it being just mostly grease and debris, ended up selling for $129.50. 10 bidders got it up to that amount. That's just a beautiful thing when you see stuff like this. And oftentimes you'll encounter these type of coins in BU rolls or maybe a mint sewn bag. And it's Denver too. So Denver Mint, as great as their quality is, quality control wise, they still have their issues. And going back into the 60s, 70s, and 80s, no exception. You're going to find stuff like this on there too. All right, so our next lot that we have here is a lot of 4 Lincoln Memorial cents. All struck off center, and for the most part, they have no readable dates except one. You can tell it's from the 1900s. But again, are we looking at a lot here that you could pick up and possibly sell individually, so that way you can make a few bucks? And where you want to be is trying to double up your money. All right, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but if you do your homework, you should be in pretty good shape. So this lot sold for $42.50, and I would say there's not a ton of opportunity. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be purchased strictly for resale, but if someone is looking for a beginner kind of lot, or maybe some coins to add into the dealer case at a show or something, sell them for $20 a piece, and they could do that as well. The resale doesn't necessarily have to be back on eBay. It could be for a coin shop or a show or any other application. All right, I saw this one, and the pictures were so tiny, so I had to blow it in a little bit closer and crop it. So this one I did modify just a little bit, but with good reason, to be able to see that pretty nice auspicious cut on the reverse. It's probably more of a retained cut because you still have some of the design elements on that raised blob area. Kind of similar to what we're seeing on the Wilma Mankiller errors of the same type, which, by the way, stay tuned. We got a pricing update on that. But this one right here is what, an 83p. That reverse cut is real nice. This one sold for $50.80 with 6 bids. Cuds are kings. These type of errors will continue to sell and produce a lot of good returns. I would certainly say keep this on your top 5 list of errors to be on the lookout for, and they can be found regularly in both Philadelphia and Denver struck coins. The amount of coins that you go through on a weekly basis will ultimately determine how many of these you find. All right, I know I've gotten change back before where I've actually found a few coins with cuds on them. So again, it's really just looking at these coins on a regular basis. All right, we have a very common date, 1999 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one's off center by, I would say, 10%. Pretty nice example if you're looking for one. It's not particularly rare. This one sold for $39.95, which is a pretty big amount of money. Actually, no, I take that back. $23.50 with 6 bids. These things have been kind of creeping up in value. They used to be a solid $10 bill as recently as a year ago. And now we're all the way up here at over $20 for these things. Keep in mind, this is a very common date of off-center and broad strikes. So, try not to overpay by a huge margin because there will always be another one available on the market. Now, this one is particularly neat. Now, I don't even know why I didn't use this as my thumbnail. I might actually change my mind, but this is a Bicentennial 76 quarter. I mean, this is world famous here. Everybody loves this coin, being one of the earliest iterations of a commemorative, a circulation commemorative, which I think is really cool to think about. But yeah, I mean, the seller had mentioned maybe this was a lamination on the reverse. I think probably, that might be the case. Just a missing plating type of issue here. So I would say in the most general of terms, I would probably classify this one as just a defective planchet, probably more toward the end of strip when the planchet was punched out. But just really cool. I mean, what are we looking at price-wise here? $57.78 with 14 bids. That's solid. I mean, Bicentennials with errors have always been strong sellers. It's just overall intrigued with the coin, with the different reverse design. And then when you add any sort of error from a clip to an off-center to a strike-through, that's where these things really begin to kind of take hold of their respective market values. It could get pretty nuts. 1999p Jefferson nickel. We've talked about this. This is just a really nice centered broad strike example. Very crisp, clean, very, very minty fresh. Even has pretty good steps on the reverse if that's your thing. But Overall, probably better suited for date collectors that want this. And this is the coin here that sold for $39.95. So we had a couple 1999p coins on my list here, and I picked the wrong one initially. But yeah, we're back on track. Now, this is quite minor. Again, do not walk into a coin shop trying to sell this thing in hopes that you would get a few bucks, because it just won't happen. This is a largely online secondary market kind of coin here, but this is a 2015 Homestead National Park quarter. Now, what's so special about this other than the fact that you can find just a myriad of double die reverses? How about the good old snowy roof die chips? Man, I love these things. And they could go from relatively minor, which I would say this one fits under, but also there's some pretty strong die chips on a few of these where they are on both sides of the roof and they're long, and it's like, it looks like, there was just a fresh amount of snowfall, that had happened. This one even has a little bit of a die chip above the window, which kind of blends in with the overall theme for this particular die chip occurrence. Just really cool. Sold for $4.99. Yeah, don't expect to earn the farm off of finds like these. The more advanced, bigger snow die chips that you'll find on here, I've seen these go up as high as $20-$30 with all of those knotted up on there. So always be looking for these. They're quite common. Only can be found as of right now, I believe, on Philadelphia minted examples. But yeah, these things are 7 years removed and still are pleasing a lot of hunters when they do come across them. Oh, all right, something a little bit different here. We have a 1960 Franklin half dollar. This is actually a proof coin, all right? And this got a really nice, if albeit subtle, doubled die reverse. So this one right here, the seller, I believe it was Brian Rybar, had one of these and did really phenomenal close-up images of the doubled areas on the reverse. So this is E pluribus unum on the reverse of that coin. And this is also doubled die reverse number 4 on the online files. But also on some of the periphery letters and words, you're going to find doubling too. This is not a particularly strong one. You might even have a little bit of a hard time looking at this through a regular standard loop, like I would normally use, maybe a 10 times power loop. You would have a hard time looking at this or finding one. But yeah, under microscope type of usage, it really shines through. This coin ended up selling for $49.95, which is pretty good considering you could normally pick up a proof Franklin half dollar of a common date for around $10-15. So yeah, this was a pretty good cherry right here. Another tough date, this time a 1972 Lincoln Memorial. This one's off center by about 15%. Good looking coin. It does have a little bit of carbon spotting issues there on the obverse, but sure enough, another tough date. This one brought home $27. There's another good one here. Although I could spend some time and just look at this because it looks like your sandcastle is being swept away at the beach, right? The wave hit it and it's like pulling in back out in the sea. It's part of your sandcastle. So it's kind of like reminiscent of what I'm seeing here with this Jefferson nickel. Now there's no readable date. It's an off-center strike. And you would even say that, it's off-center and in absence of the collar as well. So pretty crazy coin here. This one sold for $49.95. Very attractive. I'll say this is probably the most visually appealing item on today's PCMR. Well, it was bound to happen. We have a few updates on some of these newer quarters. This is the Sally Ride edition of the American Women quarters. This one has the pretty nice die clashing. You probably see it there on the reverse, but here's a few close-ups here for you. So you have the clashing of Washington's profile right here, in addition to this thing right here under his chin. So the stronger the clashing is, the better. on this coin, and this particular one that used to sell for quite a bit of money. When I'm talking quite a bit, these things got up as high as $75 to $100. I think people are ready to move on from it. This one sold for $14.90. Sorry, yeah, I'm struggling here mightily with my voice. But anyways, yeah, $15 is where this one is down to. They're kind of hovering between $10 and $20. Again, as the newer coins come out, people will forget things like this. Well, it's been quite some time since we talked about a coin from our neighbors to the north. How about 1980 Canada Maple Leaf cent? This one is off center by a little bit there, or you could say it's probably a little bit broad struck as well. Very nice, very cupped looking coin. As you guys know, mint errors from the Royal Canadian Mint are very, very coveted. And as a result, similar coins to the U.S. coinage sell for a lot more money than ours. All right, so this one right here sold for $27.45. Just a really good looking coin. Here's a nice early dated cherry pick, 1871 2-cent shield cent here. Shield 2-center or 2-cent piece, whatever. Anyways, someone had identified this as a notable doubled die obverse, and what you're going to concentrate on is going to be the letters "In God We Trust." The strongest doubling, and it's a little bit out of focus, but this is the strongest doubling here, and you see some in the word "we." Good looking coin on a relatively tougher dated 2-cent copper, and this one sold for $504.95. Because more so, I would say the coin is in really nice shape, and you have a really well-known variety. I believe this is a Cherry Picker's Guide variety too. And with all things considering, this is a coin that probably was found for a few $100s and then turned into quite a bit more. All right, so we're beginning to see more and more of these cut die breaks on Buffalo nickels. Here's yet again another example. This is a 1919 Philadelphia minted piece. Not the highest of grades, but you can see the cut on the reverse right over the word America right there. Wow. That's pretty cool. And I've seen them in varying degrees of shapes and sizes of cuts. This one sold for $105.45 with 8 bids. And here's another big one to look out for, and it doesn't matter the grade. These things are always very, very nice to find, and they're very cherry pickable. And what we have here is the 1897 Indian Head cent. This one has the one in neck variety. You can see the top flag of the one poking out right there. Poor guy. But yeah, pretty cool one here. The U.S. Mint back in the day used to test out the individual date or number punches for the date in certain areas of the coin to test the hardness of the area. But this one right here is blatantly obvious. It's become one of the more well-known misplaced date coins in the entire series. This one sold for $39.15. Much nicer specimens can get pretty out of hand value-wise. Well, we have another good variety here. 1972 double die obverse Lincoln cent. This is the FS 108. So very, very, very nice coin. Very, very minty red as well. This looks like it came out of a BU roll. Check out the doubling in the date and the word Liberty. It's pretty much unmatched, as far as one of the strongest doubled dies of this date. It's not quite FS 101, but this is a good one as well. But check out some words in the motto as well. They're going to be some of the strongest you'll find out there. This one ended up selling for $123.80. All right, another one to keep an eye out for. This is actually a very nice example of a missing initials Kennedy half dollar. So it's missing the FG initials on the back. This time it's the 1983 P, one of the more well-known dates of this occurrence. So there you go. That's what it looks like. So an over braided area of the die in this particular area. So it was over polished a little bit, removing any sort of remnants of the initials FG on there. This one sold for $36.55. 1995 Lincoln. Of course, the big reason why this one's here, as I've talked about in previous weeks, is that amazing double die. These are still being found out there in the wild. Can't even believe it. That just shows you that these things were minted into oblivion. But yeah, pretty nice doubling. This is, of course, the FS101 and a very well-known, highly publicized double to die. This coin sold for $64.45. Now, the biggest coin of the week has to be, of course, it had to have Coins and Cards' name on it because they are well known for some of the most ridiculous non-graded varieties and key date coins that you will ever find on eBay. How about this 1922 plain no D Lincoln? And it's also got the strong reverse. It's actually die pairing number 2, from what I understand. Very nice. Very nice. Of course, you guys know these were only minted at the Denver Mint. And then there were some examples that left the mint without a mint mark due to a filled die or some sort of other issue. But very, very good looking example here. Nice high-end example. I think Coins and Cards had mentioned this was an AU condition coin, and it looks to be about the case. This one sold for $2,348.32. You gotta have a lot of balls to grab a coin that's ungraded like this and feel comfortable about it. But Coins and Cards has been known to sell really nice quality pieces. And, this further solidifies the fact that you don't have to grade the coins because that's a huge expense all on its own. And if you could avoid it, why not? All right, so we're finally hitting that spot of the video. We're going to find out what some of the big spicy listings are. So we got a couple of these Wilma Mankiller retained cuts. Here's the first one out of the two. This one does not, however, have the reverse die crack, all right, but it's got plenty of like strike-through elements on there. Probably add a nice dosing of grease on the dies at the time this one was produced. But you can see that retained cut right there on top of Washington's head. Along with, what I like to call the drippy nose die crack that goes into the fields and in through the date and out at the rim. This thing is loaded with all sorts of stuff to look at. But what are we looking at on these? We've seen a few of them drop here on eBay recently. This one sold for $269.69, and that's with 22 bits. This is a beautiful looking cut, one of my favorites. 1973D is the date, and it's got a pretty sizable cut over the word "we" and "trust" on the obverse there. You can also see the corresponding weakness over the word "sent" on the reverse. This particular example sold for $103.50 with 14 total bids. And here's the other Wilma Mankiller. Now, this one is profiled with that really nice reverse die crack that you can see here. Not quite going all the way through. Still have yet to find or see an example of this coin with the crack that goes all the way through the coin. They may just not exist. Maybe the mint employees caught wind of that and yanked that die out of there pretty fast. But yeah, this has everything that the previous coin had, only this is a much later progression. This one right here, the prices are just ridiculous. $752.99. Still waiting for that first $1,000 sale. I guess I might be eating my own words here if none pop up between now and the end of the year. Just a really nice Roosevelt dime here. We didn't talk about dimes too much on today's report, but we have at least one. This is a very large broad struck example. Even has what looks to be a little bit of an indent, so there was some maybe other planchet that was overlapped there. Pretty nice, very clean, minty, fresh coin. As you can see, it's quite a bit larger than a regular, non-error dime. So this one sold for $43.80. which is a really solid amount of money for a Roosevelt dime era. A few more lots. We have a lot of 6 1987 Lincoln Memorials. They're all off-center struck by varying degrees. So what are you guys saying? Is there a little bit of opportunity here? The pictures aren't particularly fantastic. This one sold for $30.80 with 2 bids. I would say there is some opportunity here. I think you could honestly turn around and sell these coins respectively for about maybe $15 a piece. It is a little bit tougher date, even though we have 6 of them in one lot. They were all probably pulled out of a old U.S. Mint canvas bag at one point. But yeah, this is a really good potential lot right here. And probably this one as well, although this one did sell for a lot more money, $50.30 with 7 bids. But note that there is no readable date on any of these coins. And I think this one is a much tougher sale, as far as flipping. But I mean, if you wanted a beginner lot of off-center strikes, or if you need some inventory for an upcoming coin show, I mean, this one might work. But this one sold for $20 more than the previous lot. And they don't have any readable dates, which I think would stunt their potential in the long run. And the final coin in this week's PCMR, I mean, we got to talk about more of these high and low leaf variety Wisconsin quarters. We have yet another one, another fresh find, 2004D. Kind of hard to believe considering that these coins are 18 years old. I mean, will they ever run out? Probably not. Now, like I had mentioned before, previously, these were distributed in quite a bit nice chunky numbers in the Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas region of the U.S. And even to this day, they're still being found quite regularly. Now, this example here was sold from a seller in North Carolina. Now, I don't know if one example had migrated there and it was pulled out of change, or if maybe this person had bought one of these a long time ago. But we do have a recorded sale from anywhere else from the southern U.S. So on this one, you can see that extra engraved line that formulates what they call a high leaf variant. I think these were done intentionally, and many others have agreed. So this coin right here, even in this condition, which looks pretty well circulated, sold for $70, and that's with 7 bids. Again, the market's incredibly strong on these leaf variants of Wisconsin quarters. All right, well, what did you guys think? Will this get your creative juices going into going out there and doing some hunting of your own? I mean, there's plenty of treasures out there. You just have to do the activities. And, you will be able to find some of these, put into work, make some cash. That's how it works. And again, don't go to a coin shop unless you have that 22 plain Lincoln set that you're looking to sell. A lot of these, again, are better suited for online sales where you have a lot bigger audience. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this one. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. I wish you guys the best in all of your hunting endeavors. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And I'm also on TikTok as well, at Blue Ridge Silverhound. Well, that's going to go ahead and conclude this one. You guys take care. Have a good weekend, and I will see you on the next coin video. So long.